The 24-25 season is here, and that only means one thing. Away Days is back. Come on, let's go.
We're still loaded.
I get those goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. To the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. You come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side, yo. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yo. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags. Yes, sir.
Come on. Let's go. Welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. The Away Days Big Match Preview is back. And we are back for the 24-25 season and looking forward to it. Brandy and Blaze in the house. How you doing, fella? How are things?
Good, mate. Good. Yeah. Still in Birmingham.
Still in a week.
Still in Birmingham, yeah. Going home tomorrow, but no, I'm very, very tired today. Don't know why, but very tired today. But I can't lie, I've been looking forward to this show all day, and I've been dying to get on because it means the football season's back. First away days of the season, and what better guest to have than Mike? Our favourite Southampton fan. So yeah, really looking forward to talking all things football. Getting on the train home tomorrow. Getting home for the Man United Fulham game, and the weekend starts at 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Absolutely. The Premier League is back. And look, we've done all the transfer talk and we'll continue to do so, but there's no better feeling than talking about football, actual football happening. That's what.
How are you, Pete? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Still a little bit frustrated. There's no moves on Mark Gaze. That's for another conversation for another time. But yeah, other than that, I'm absolutely buzzing, waiting for the new season. Cannot wait for the game on Saturday. It's going to be an exciting one, that's for sure. But welcome to everyone in the chat. The Tunes are all out. We'll give them a quick shout out before we let our fantastic guest in. Welcome to Bill, always in the house, one of the first ones in there. First away days, it's one of my local teams. Excellent. Good to know. Welcome in, Paul. Or the gay talk started. We're not getting into it. We probably will get into it at some point tonight, actually. No doubt about it. But welcome in anyway. Dutch Mag, fantastic to have you in there. And massive thanks to becoming a member. Welcome to the Loaded Ultras. So massive thanks to you, Dutch Mag. We've got Easter and Mag. Hope you are well. Along with our resident spanner, Tom Dixon. Hope you are well too. We've got John in the house, along with Andy Ford, Will back in the house again. Great to see. We've got Key, along with Colin. Hope you are both well, along with James and Holloway Ben. Great to have you in there too. We've got Ewan, Malcolm. I hope you are well, along with David as well. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of other tunes as people stroll into the chat. Make sure you get your questions for Mike, because we are going to run a section where we ask Mike some questions from you guys, the live chat. But look, let's get him in. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome back, finally, back in the Premier League, Matchday Vlogs, and welcome back, Mike. How you doing, fella?
How are we doing? I'm doing very well, thank you. It's so good to be back. but it feels like the Premier League is changed completely since we've gone in the last 12 months. But I'm sure we'll get onto all those kind of details. But it's an absolute pleasure to join you. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. We did say we were looking forward to getting you back. Hopefully you were going to come back soon, and you have. You've returned to the Premier League after 1 year of asking. Just want to run through really quickly, just because you've come back into the Premier League. And you've been busy in the transfer window. Unlike Newcastle United, you have been making some signings. Just a quick run through here with some of the signings that you've made. There's been a few. You've got Harwood Bellis. You got Flynn Downs come back on after a loan from West Ham, I believe, and he was apparently a very important player for you. I know a lot of Southampton fans were desperate to get him back. Ben Burton Diaz, I'll say less on that for any loaded fan who's been talking during the transfer window. Sugawara, right back from AZ Alkmaar, got the likes of Nathan Wood. Ronnie Edwards, I'm interested to know about from Peterborough.
Pete.
Lots of people talking about him, yeah?
Isn't he the guy that Mango said we should be looking at?
Yeah.
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
That's why I said it'd be interesting to find out about him and how he's been getting on for you guys. And you've got a number of other players as well as players returning from loan spells with the likes of Bella Kotchap, who we've talked about before, Alcaraz, and one or two others. And of course, the return of Adam Lallana. Now, the question I've got for you, based on all those signings coming in, do you feel that your team, your squad is ready and equipped to do the impossible, as every new promoted team is stay in the Premier League?
Yeah, nearly, I think would be a good word to use. I think we still need a striker. We still need an attacking midfield player because we lost Stuart Armstrong. He basically was out of contract, and I think he went to Brentford, although I'm not sure if that was actually finalised or not. And we could do with a goalkeeper. So those three positions we ideally need to be looking at. There was talk of perhaps Aaron Ramsdale coming in on a year loan.
We have one.
Like that. Oh, you have one, yeah.
We have one of ours.
So those are the three areas. And just going over the rest of the transfers, we have Taylor Harwood-Bellis and Flynn Downs. Those were two players that we had on loan, respectively from Manchester City and West Ham United. So a lot of people are looking at how we play football and how we approach the Championship and how we're approaching the Premier League. And the word Burnley is coming up an awful lot in regards to possession-based football, playing out from the back. The key difference for us is we've bought the loan players that we had in the Championship. So, one, it's been quite expensive to do that. Harwood-Bellis came in at £20 million. It's kind of like a agreement that was put in place. You know, should we be promoted? The agreement there was we would have purchased him at £20 million. Flynn Downs one, there was no agreement to buy, so we had to negotiate that deal. So he's come in, I believe, at 25 million or something like that, somewhere around that kind of bracket. So already we spent close to 50 million quid. So that in itself has left us a little bit restricted in terms of what we can do in approaching for an attacking midfield player, and ultimately a striker as well. So the rest of the loan players that have come back, Armour Bella Kotchat is looking at a move away. There was talks of an issue with his heart, unfortunately. So they just.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, apparently it's been blown out of proportion though, so it's not as bad as I thought. It's just a precautionary thing.
But he failed his medical, didn't he?
He failed his medical, yes, but I think it was. I think they're sort of calming it down a little bit because it came out a bit prematurely in regards to the news of that, and everyone's kind of gone, "Oh my goodness, he's never playing again." It's apparently not that serious, but they, of course, with all these things, you know, medical is basically to protect the purchase, so to speak. But ultimately, you know, this is a player's life we're talking about, so you know that should come first and foremost, really. And then the other loan players we got coming back in that we loaned out. Paul Onuachu, who's basically went away, played to Tromsø, something like that. But they want him, but they don't want to pay more than 4 million quid for him, which isn't going to work for us. So it's a bit of a sticking point on that one. And then the others, really, Charlie Alcaraz it's kind of looked like he was in and amongst it, and then perhaps he is, perhaps he isn't. But ultimately, Russell Martin needs a midfielder, an attacking midfielder that can play his system. And Charlie's a bit of a loose cannon, as he got a red card against Lazio in a friendly last week. So he's got a bit of fiery temper on him. He's a great player, but ultimately he's not quite what Russell Martin's looking for. So of all the other loan players that went out, a lot of them are kind of being moved on. But to talk about the defensive players we bought, Nathan Wood and Ronnie Edwards, those were the two that were kind of bought at a very good price. I think Ronnie Edwards was maybe £4 million or something like that. Yeah. But he's certainly one for the future. He's already playing in the England under-21s, along with Harwood Bellis as well. So we kind of see that one as maybe he goes out on loan somewhere for this season and then comes back for us next season, wherever we will be. But defensively, we're kind of pretty well suited at the moment with Jan Bednarek and of course Jack Stevens and Harwood Bellis being the first choices really. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up. And the only other thing would be Kyle Walker-Peters, who is in the right back, kind of was pushing for a move away, linked with West Ham heavily, and then that fell through because they went for Wan-Bissaka. I think they thought he was a better player. No idea how they coming to that conclusion. But either way, it's a difficult position because Kyle Walker-Peters has got a year left on his contract. So he either stays with us and helps us stay in the Premier League and we lose him on the free, or he goes for some money now, which, let's be realistic, it's going to be about 10 million quid or something like that, which might help us get someone in midfield. And like Sugawara is the other right back who we brought in to effectively replace Kyle Walker-Peters. So it's kind of there, but Kyle Walker-Peters is fantastic in the sense he can play on the left. I mean, you might remember a certain guy called Tino Livramento who was in our right back position, and Kyle Walker-Peters played on the left because he could, and it was a fantastic kind of thing. So incredibly versatile wing back is Kyle Walker-Peters. So mixed emotions on that one. I kind of like to see the funds released, but I kind of quite like to see him stay as well. So I hope that sums up our transfer business, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. And just while you're on that, not necessarily a transfer business over the summer. You got a player back, and we touched on him before. It's a player that we've been interested in with Alcaraz. Like I said, he has been linked with a move to Flamengo today. 25 million euros. We don't want to jump too much ahead to the tactics board and the starting lineup, but is he going to play on Saturday with the rumours kind of ramping up that he could potentially move?
I would say no, mainly because he's probably not a first choice in that position. I can see, and also his antics for the friendlies. I mean, I didn't realise you could actually get suspended for the following game in a friendly season, but apparently you can. So he didn't feature in the Getafe game. I think you'll probably see Joe Aribo in that position, that sort of, attacking midfield, sort of number 10, sort of crossover sort of role. So yeah, I would doubt. He may well be on the bench. You never know. But the funny thing was, he was actually the club put out that Charlie Alcaraz will be in the club store, mega store next week for a signing, and literally the same time as that Flamengo link went out. So all the memes came out. So that's nice, but I won't be there, kind of thing. So that was a fun one to see.
I'm going to ask you about your manager, Russell Martin, because he's obviously come in and done a good job. He seems to have galvanized the team and the players and ultimately the club since he's been in charge. But are you of the mindset that he's someone that can keep you in the Premier League? Like, is he good enough to make that step, or is it something where you've got to sort of trust the process and allow him the opportunity this season?
I think he will adapt to a certain extent, but he'll adapt in the sense of, is he going to play with 2 centre-backs or 3? And that will be pretty much it. I think everything else, he's not going to change his process in regards to, playing very much possession-based football, opening up the lines and things like that. So I can see him potentially getting a hammering every so often if things aren't quite on the game. But ultimately, what's the point of throwing your game plan out the window? A lot of people talk about plan Bs and stuff like that, but no one really has a plan B other than panic and just pull more players back. So I don't think there's anything that he can effectively do that will change his mindset that wouldn't be detrimental to us anyway. So the players have been learning the system for the last year. We conceded a lot of goals last season, and I think that's the big headline and the big thing that we're all ultimately worried about. We conceded 2 fewer goals than Birmingham City, who got relegated to the League One. So it's a massive concern. But certainly the playoff campaign, we only conceded 1 goal in the sense that it was a freakish goal as well by West Brom in the very latter stages. So we do have a way that we can shut teams out, but we've got to be on our game. And but it is risky football. It's very risky football.
Well, to be fair, this is what the Premier League's about. When you go out there and you risk it, you get your reward. And there is how many teams have tried to, play deep and sit back and not sort of let teams in or be expansive, and then still ended up getting relegated. Whereas teams that have gone out and really expanded themselves have ended up staying in the Premier League. So like you said, without risk, there's no reward in that situation. So I admire it. And let's face it, Chris. Like, I'll come to you on this because are you some? I know I'm like this, but I always get excited about those newly promoted teams that just go for it, that go out there and just expansive. Are you the same?
Yeah, no, absolutely. For some clubs, not Southampton, but for some clubs, it's like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, isn't it? Like, I'm expecting Ipswich to kind of do that this season. They've got a young progressive manager, and I'm expecting them to just kind of go, do you know what? Let's just give it a go. Let's just have a go. And I think sometimes, it's finding that right balance, isn't it? I mean, we saw with Vincent Kompany last season, like, his style of football obviously is appreciated, but it wasn't getting the results. And he just kept with it and kept with it and kept with it. And people were saying, you need to be a bit more short, you need to shore up at the back a little bit more. And he was just like, no, I'm going to keep playing the way I play. And to be fair to Vincent Kompany, it's ended up getting him a pretty decent move, hasn't it? Sticking with that philosophy. But sadly, obviously, Burnley didn't make it, even though it was close. They weren't far off, but they didn't quite make it. But yeah, I expect as well with Southampton, I expect them to really give it a go this season. And you can tell as well, just purely looking at the transfers, Pete, they're bringing in a lot of steady Eddie names, but also a little bit of potential in there as well. I mean, I honestly, Mike, I'm not saying this. I was gutted when Southampton went down because yeah. And well, of course, for away days first and foremost, Mike. You know what I mean? But also, I think really, really good club. Do things the right way. People still talk now about the way Southampton had their academy, like all those players that they just kept churning out. So I think it's great that Southampton are back in the Premier League. Obviously, great to have you back as well, Mike. And I think Southampton will have a good season this season. I've got a good feeling.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, after Saturday, you'll have even more of a good season. If you do us a favour. Now, I want to ask you this question before we move on to some questions that are already in the chat right now. What is going on with this guy here? And you know what? Someone in the chat, is David Knight, put it as best as I could have. He's just put this. He's gone, please buy Ryan Fraser. But we don't know what's going on. He seems to be back and forth from Newcastle to Southampton, but yet nothing's been decided. What, from your perspective as a Southampton fan, what is going on with Ryan Fraser? And do you think you're actually going to sign him with 2 weeks to go in this window?
What is going on with Ryan Fraser? I think ultimately now he's not a priority. And I think that's probably going to affect how much the club are generally working on it. I'd love to see him back at the club. I think he did a great service for us in the Championship, but I think attentions are effectively on striker, midfield, attacking midfield, and the goalkeeper. As far as I'm aware, it's down to the fact that he's on pretty good money at you guys, and I think that's the stumbling point, and it can't be sorted out because it's too much of a gap between where we're at and what kind of milk money we provide and what you guys are doing. So he's far too used to the gold taps up at St James's Park by the sounds of it. But
Jules has put it best, Mike. Go get Fraser. We need to hashtag that. Jules, hashtag it. Go get Fraser.
Yeah.
No, but obviously there is definitely like I heard things like he's not even allowed in the building and things like that. So there's definitely things that both clubs want to get moving, and he'd be a great asset to us and someone who Russell Martin really likes as well. So he definitely can be used. When he came to us, it was a real mixed bag. Actually, no, it wasn't a mixed bag. Pretty much everyone was just like, why do we want Ryan Fraser? And then a few games in, everyone's just like, oh, okay, all these last-minute goals, they're quite nice. He's quite good at that. But very nippy, very, very good at getting into the right sort of positions and just really suited Russell Martin's style of play. So, look, if a deal gets done, I think it'd be great. But I think if a deal gets done in preference of those roles that I've said that we're in desperate need of, then it's perhaps not going to be much to the liking of Saints fans, really.
I think that's fair. I think Chris, we're in the position where we can see the fact that he's not even in the first team building. He's not training with the squad at all, and it's just a case of for us, we want him off the books because we know he's not got a future at Newcastle.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that door's been firmly closed, hasn't it? I don't see any kind of reconciliation happening anytime soon. Can't lie, Mike. We were hoping, that he was going to go to Southampton. We saw the way Russell Martin spoke about Ryan Fraser, waxing lyrical over him. And in fairness, Mike, taking away the, my opinion of Ryan Fraser and what he's how he's conducted himself. On his day, he is a very good player. I know some people won't like me hear me say that, but he probably is a Premier League standard player, and I think he would do a good job. The difficulty is, I'm going to use the word mercenary, but he clearly, as you say, Mike, he's got a big contract. He believes that Newcastle should pay him off, and we were speaking about this. Was it last night, Pete? We were talking about it, saying that really, you would like to think that Ryan Fraser would just kind of cut ties and go, do you know what? I want to finish my career. Yeah, I want to play football, finish my career, and get right off what's happened previously. But it seems, from what we heard, and to be fair, we don't actually know the ins and outs, but we're led to believe it's because he wants that payoff.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame for him more than anything because if he doesn't kind of get that, whatever that is secured in the next 2 weeks, he's going to find himself training in the 21s up until January. So he's at a prime age in his career where he should be thinking about playing football and being happy. Like he genuinely seemed happy in all the videos from Southampton and the interviews. He genuinely seemed happy at the club, and at this point now, I think most Newcastle fans are saying, go and be happy somewhere else, because we know Eddie Howe's not going to play you. He's not even putting him in the team, and it's just frustrating. I think all round, you would definitely benefit from that player. To get a player of his experience and his ability, like Chris said on his day, I don't think there's many other. I don't think Leicester and Ipswich would have found a similar player like that, especially with Premier League experience, to come in and have that know-how. Like you said, last-minute goals in the Championship. He has that knack of producing something, and he can still do it in the Premier League. So it would be great for him, for you, and for us, everyone all round, if that could get done. But just as whilst we're on sort of Newcastle player talk, I want to ask you about Newcastle. Obviously, the outside looking in from your perspective, what have you made of Newcastle United? Obviously, you might not have kept too much of an eye on them because obviously you focused on your own team last season and getting promoted. But what do you make of Newcastle? We just missed out on European football due to Man United obviously winning the FA Cup. We had a huge injury-ravaged season where it effectively affected us missing out on the Champions League qualification stages. And, we lost games that probably with a full strength squad, we probably couldn't have. What do you make of Newcastle United sort of going into this season? Do you think we can hit the heights again, like some people are projecting us to do, and get Champions League football again?
I think it's entirely possible. I think there's a lot of unknowns with your squad this year because, like you say, you've got a lot of players coming back from injury. So, in terms of going into a Premier League campaign with a fully fit squad, you guys finished 7th last season, 60 points. So, all in all, that's a pretty decent season, whichever way you look at it. And to do that with European football as well going on, and Champions League football, for that matter, going on, is no mean feat, really. So. It's going to be interesting to see what Newcastle do. But then again, looking around, there's a lot of other clubs in that area. And I think that's the big fascinating thing for the top 10 of the Premier League is like everyone's going for it. There are only so many Champions League spots, but, you look at what Villa did last season. Chelsea have eventually got to turn things around at some point. So, and Man United appear to be making moves as well. But there are only so many spots available. But I think Newcastle have a great opportunity. I mean, they're from our side, from an outsider looking in, I think there's probably a lot of uncertainty what you're going to do with Eddie Howe. Now, I mean that in the sense of if he's able to push on, will your ownership be happy with what he's doing? And then on the other side of it, is he going to be linked away with the international job that everyone seems to be talking about him being a perfect fit for? So it'd be really interesting to see what happens then. If something should disrupt you mid-season, whether that be a managerial move for either of those reasons, and of course, keeping hold of your star players that you've got at the moment. So I think even without the likes of because you're linked with Mark Gay and things like that, which obviously you feel the need for, but I think you're in a pretty good position to push on from what you did last season, really.
Sound quite fair, Chris?
Yeah,
I don't think you'll be in the bottom 3. Put it that way.
Hopefully not.
And many a time over the last recent years. So
it's great fun. You're missing out.
I don't think my heart can take anymore. I'm not going to lie. I'd rather, if my heart can't take it anymore, I'd rather it be the case if we're doing that at the other end of the table, or hopefully lifting something at some point in our lifetime. That's what we'd much rather. But no, I think that's more than a fair assessment on Newcastle, and lots of question marks or questions, should I say, that need to be answered on the manager, on the performances. Can we bounce back? I think that's all really fair, Mike. Absolutely. We've got some questions in the chat. We'll come to them now because people have been putting their questions in for you, Mike, regarding various different topics. Chris, what we got?
Yeah, we've got some really interesting ones from everyone in the chat. Do you know what? I really like this one, actually. This one's from Brett C. Brett C asks you, Mike, which teams do you think you can finish ahead of this year? Not being disrespectful, just know it's a tough league. And I think that's a really good question because rather than just going, where do you think you'll finish? It's like, well, who can we finish above? And then, well, that may give you your answer in the end. But what do you think on that, Mike?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's been no secret that the Premier League's a lot tougher than it was 2 seasons ago. I mean, we got relegated on, I think, 25 points or something like that, but we were terrible for the entire season, but weren't a million miles away from staying up. Last season, if you take away the fact of the points deductions from Everton and Forest, the bottom 3 were a million miles away from it. I mean, they did a great job, but let's be honest, they're a million miles away from it. So I think this season is going to be tougher than ever. In regards to who we can finish above, I think we could probably do some favours with points deductions coming in. So I can see Leicester being hit with something, although I'm not sure what will happen with that. So I'm going to put Leicester in there, and also Leicester are struggling to start with a known striker or something like that. So I can see them sort of struggling a little bit in that regard. Also, with Steve Cooper coming in, it's probably going to change the mindset of the players that were there last season under Maresca. So, big changes for them. In terms of others, Ipswich are a bit of an unknown. They play very direct, progressive, possession-based football. So it's kind of such a mixture there. They're either going to get. I kind of sort of see them. You remember when Leeds came up the first time and they were playing their way? I can kind of see something like that for Ipswich because they do concede, but they're they're pretty good at what they do. An incredible team, which is effectively not too dissimilar to what they had in League One, really. So they should be congratulated for that alone, really. So I'm going to put Ipswich in there along with Leicester. The newly promoted side is so depressing already.
Let's not forget they could have up to 15-point deduction.
They could. So I'm going to say also, I'm going to put. They bought a load of players. I'm going to still say Forest. I think just based on their proximity last season and where they were, you know, but other clubs that I can see are on that kind of knife edge. Maybe a Brentford or a Fulham in there as well. But I see the likes. I mean, what Palace did towards the end of last season was absolutely mad. So I can see them doing very well. I can see Bournemouth doing very well and sort of ending mid-table. So the bottom 10 are going to look a little bit different, and I think there's going to be a bigger gap than last season as well.
What are you thinking on Everton, Mike?
I was going to ask the same question.
Everton, yeah, quite possibly. I mean, that could be another club. I mean, you know, I hear they got sort of issues with fitness of players going into the opening weekend, but did I hear the Calvert-Lewin was linked away or something like that? So, yeah, absolutely, but ultimately they did get the job done last season quite comfortably with what they had. So, you know, as much as I like to think that we're getting close to, you know, where the bottom half mid-table might be, you know, reality is that the gap feels bigger now. And it's weird because when I went down, it was a case of like, I didn't think there was a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League, but there is. It's huge. I mean, the sort of clubs we were playing last season, some of them, I have no idea how they didn't score against us. We're literally gifting them the ball, and they still couldn't put it in the back of the net. And it was just the difference is huge. But it's, you know, makes it equally depressing when you don't beat those sides as well. So, yeah. No, rather than United at home, it's
This is an interesting one as well, Mike, from East Durham Mag. And East Durham Mag asks you, are you happier that we haven't really strengthened yet? And do you feel it's a good time to play us? Obviously, I don't want to spoil your prediction, Mike, but are you worried about the business that we've done so far? Or are you still looking at R11 and thinking, it's going to be a tough one? Or do you think it's a good time to catch us out?
I think early games within the transfer window are all over the place, and opening day is completely mad. I mean, we've only won twice since the Premier League's inception in 1992 on the first day. So there's a stat for you.
That's good.
So, but it's opening day. It's still in a transfer window. Players are coming back from pre-season at all kind of different times. Are the squads gelling with new players yet? All those kind of things. The thing that we got going for us is the fact that our squad is pretty much the squad we had last season. So while that's good, it also means that we're perhaps not as strong as we perhaps should be. But the additions that we've made are kind of like icing on the cake, so to speak. So the systems involved are the ones that players know. So that we have got going for us. But to answer this question, I think I haven't really strengthened yet. You're pretty strong as you are. So it's kind of a... I don't think the strength thing is a worry, but I think the fact that playing any team early doors is perhaps, you know, a bit of an unknown, which could go for either team.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I'm going to ask you one more, Mike, before we move on. Mag Neil asks, and obviously this is a former Newcastle player. What's your view on Adam Armstrong, and how many will he bag this year?
Good question.
It is a good question. Perhaps not as many as last year. He scored an awful lot of goals in the Championship. Now, a lot of fans have been saying, has he found his level? You know, is this the case that that's where he's great at? You know, Shea Adams was another one. He was fantastic and prolific in the Championship, but perhaps not as prolific in the Premier League. That said, the opening day of the season, when we first got him in, he banged in an absolute worldie against Everton. It was one of those, like, how dare you ever go from there sort of goals, which I absolutely love. So, you know, confidence in football is massive, and I think going into a Premier League campaign in a system that suits him is going to be hugely beneficial. Do I think he's going to get 20 plus goals in the Premier League? No. Do I think he's going to get 15? Maybe. He could be someone that could really surprise a lot of people. And along with Ben Brereton Diaz, his old Blackburn buddy, it's going to be quite fun to see those guys link up. And I know that guy's caused you havoc as well before in the past. But back on
Pete's going to have to tell you the story, because we laughed when his name got mentioned before. Pete's going to have to tell you the story as to why we're laughing when you to mention Ben Brereton Diaz. And it's a good thing for him, by the way. It's a good thing.
I continue to get hammered by it. I suggested back in May, when we were talking about third choice strikers, I mentioned, I just floated the idea. I didn't say I wanted him, but just floated the idea of Ben Brereton Diaz to sign. Like, would he be considered a good signing? Literally everyone was saying no, not even as a third choice striker, and that was fine. That was fine. What we then had a conversation about is he considered a Premier League player? And that's when I was kind of like, well, I think he is a Premier League player. He scored against us at St James's Park, albeit we won 5-1. But he, I believe, is a Premier League player. He's just not had a club where he's settled and played regular at Premier League level. I'm not saying he's top half, but he could well be a bottom half Premier League player, but he scores goals as he did at Sheffield United, and I still got shot down for that. So I'm reminded every time Ben Brereton Diaz is mentioned, and then I got reminded again when he signed for you guys. So look, after Saturday, if he bangs some goals in, then
he'll be like that.
Yeah, that's point proven. Arms out, point proven. Not for Newcastle. That's a side thing, but he can do it in the Premier League. So I think he can.
Yeah, £7 million though is an absolute steal. I mean, in regards, he got 6 goals with an absolutely dreadful Sheffield United side is testament alone. But he's very good at sort of cutting inside and opening up space. But it's going to be a very versatile player for us, and I can see him moving on the wing and then playing up front alone. So he's a good one to have. So yeah, 4-year deal, £7 million. Yep, I think you're right, Pete.
Doesn't get you a lot these days, does it, Mike? 7 million doesn't get you a lot. No,
it really doesn't. Everyone else in the Premier League is spending like 25 and up. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the spending sprees of like West Ham and Bournemouth as well. Spending 40 million on strikers, just like
Brighton with that.
Yeah,
I don't even know much about it. Is it?
Yeah, Jorginho Rutler.
It's his buyout clause.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Is he good, Mike? Is he good?
No, he's not.
No,
I've never been so sure. We played him. Was it 3 or 4 times? 3 times. 3 times in the season. And on his day, he'll smash him in. He's good, a bit like a Mavididi at Leicester. One of those sort of players. Very, very, very quick and creative. But I think he smashed the post like 3 or 4 times against QPR in their game or something like that. But 40 million quid.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
No, not. I think I don't know what Brighton are doing. I mean, I understand their scouts are pretty good, but the idea that he's worth 40 million quid is just madness to me. And the fact that Somerville went to West Ham for what, 20, 25, something like that. I mean, that's more of a realistic number. Bear in mind you're buying a player from the Championship, spending 40 million quid. But
and he was the player of the season, wasn't he?
Yeah, was it Somerville? Might have been Somerville.
Oh, that's what I meant. Somerville.
Yeah.
So Somerville was going to West Ham for less than him, but he was the player of the season in the Championship.
Yeah, that's the mad thing about it. I really don't understand that one. I think that's silly money. Especially when FFP and stuff like that, it's going to be flying all over the place. So that does seem mad.
I saw a list of players that Brighton have signed this summer, and then there's a separate list of players that they're in talks with currently about signing. And if they get those, I think there's like another couple of players. If they get those 2 players along with who they've already signed, Brighton will have spent 190 million this summer.
Wow,
it's absolute madness. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So like that then adds pressure onto them. They've got to achieve something next season. Their FFP will be good. Their PSR, should I say, will be good because of Casado and all the money that they've recouped a hell of a lot of money, to be fair. But when you're spending that sort of money, like West Ham, I was having a conversation with someone the other night. West Ham, for the last 2 or 3 seasons, are close to spending 200 million per summer.
Wow.
And so, like, you're approaching nearly 600 million over a 3-year stint. Like, you're putting pressure on yourself there to succeed. And they've made some good players. They've signed some good players and upgraded in some areas, but they've got to go through and they've got to get the deal done. But we'll move on, because I want to come to the tactics board, and I appreciate and thank you for sending me your 11 in. But we do it slightly differently now, Mike.
Okay.
We get you to pick the 11 live as we go along. So the tactics board is here on the screen. We have your squad, your full squad for this season. I hope I've got everyone down there available to you, and you pick the 11 in the positions that you want. So when you are ready, what are your 11 that you think are going to start on Saturday? And then we'll get Chris to give the 11 for Newcastle United.
Okay. So nice and easy. It'd be number 1 in goal, Alex McCarthy. I can definitely see that happening. That's basically down to the fact that Gavin Bazunu is injured, and Joe Lumley is effectively the third choice keeper. Yep. And I think we're going to have 3 centre-backs. I think that will be the way that we'll be set up against you guys at the weekend. So that will include Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Jack Steve. I think he'll be out towards the left side, and then we're going to have Jack Stevens on the right side, and then in the middle of those 3, it's going to be Jan Bednarek.
Okay. Interesting.
We're getting fairly close to Saturday's game, so it doesn't look like Kyle Walker-Peters will be moving before that. So I'm going to put Kyle Walker-Peters in the left wing back position. And then in the right wing back, I'm going to go with Sugawara. We're still practicing how to say his name. Is it Sugawara? Sugawara?
We'll go with Sugawara. It sounds
we'll get used to that. And then in the kind of the middle, a holding midfield role, kind of the sort of pivot position, it'll be Flynn Downs on number 4. Okay. Or Fliniesta, as we're calling him now.
Yeah. Second half of the season for you, didn't he?
Yeah. He's crucial to what it was all about, really, in regards to Russell Martin buying that lone player who was pivotal in the position last season. So that was a must, really. If we didn't have Flynn Downs, I think it would be even more of a worry than it already is. And then to the right of him, I'm going to go with Will Smallbone.
Yeah.
And number 8, that's right. Yeah. Again, a very when he's confident, he's an unbelievable player. And I actually had the good pleasure we had a kit launch event at the club, and all the players came in wearing the kit in this small room. It's quite amazing to mingle with everyone. And Will Smallbone is the nicest guy you ever meet, just absolute legend. So even after speaking with him for like 25 minutes, I said, "Do you mind if we do a little video for our channel?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So there's a little interview with him on the channel.
Nice guy.
If anyone needs any proof. And then to the left side of the midfield, I'm going to go with Joe Aribo.
Good player.
And I think a lot of pressure is on him to perform really in the Premier League. I mean, he did wondrous things up at Rangers, was touted to be, the next big thing in regards to a sort of attacking midfielder, but very, very versatile as well. So I can see him doing good things there. And then I'm going to go with Ben Burton Diaz, just in front of him on the left. So to go for our 2 up front.
What have I done? Got rid of Smallbone. Right, on the left-hand side, just here?
That's on the right, isn't it?
I was thinking
My
bad. That's a knowledge sort of thing I do on my show, Pete. That's, watch out for that.
Glad I'm not the only one.
And then we're going to have the angel of the south, as he's known, Adam Armstrong, on that right attacking side.
Okay. I'll bring them in slightly. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. It's a different style of setup to come up against, Chris, particularly with the 3 at the back, almost like a 3-5-2. Newcastle United then, Chris. We're back again. We're back here again. And I tell you what, it's not as negative as last season because, Mike, when we got to this point, we could have just already put the players on the pitch because that's all we had available. We are in a different situation.
You have a buffet.
Yeah, we have a buffet.
Yeah, we do.
But go for it, Chris. What do you think your 11 is going to be on Saturday?
Okay. And I didn't get to say this very often last season, Pete, but in the middle of our goal, Nick Pope.
Yes.
So I'm all about this. Now, I have actually, Pete, even while I've been talking then, I've actually changed one of my players. I've had a little think about it, and it's Kyle Walker-Peters that's done it for me. So I'm going to say, I think Tino Livramento is going to start right back.
Club.
Do you know what? I think he will. And the reason I'm saying that is because the excuse could be, that obviously Kieran Trippier, he has an extended break. He's came back a bit late. And Tino Livramento has been with us from the start of pre-season. So I think if Eddie Howe's playing safe, I actually think the safe option would be to play Tino Livramento in this game. Will he stay in the starting 11 when Kieran Trippier is fully up to speed? And if he's still at the club, that's up for debate. But I think for this game, I'm going to go with Tino. Yeah, so I think Eddie will pick Tino. Centre backs, Pete. I know you're going to critique this because sometimes we have Keith critiquing, but so we may differ here, Pete. But I'm going to say Fabian Schär, right centre back.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Big Dan Burn, left centre back.
Okay.
And in the left back position, I think it's going to be Lewis Hall.
Lewis Hall. Lovely stuff.
Yeah.
There is the back place.
Right, midfield. Yeah, midfield picks itself. So this is reminiscent of last season. The midfield does pick itself for the time being. So it's going to be Bruno in the holding position.
Yep.
Big Joe Linton, left centre mid.
Yep.
And Sean Longstaff, right centre mid.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that midfield three is nailed in. And then the front three, again, I think most people at home would pick exactly the same front three. I think it's going to be Anthony Gordon on the left-hand side.
Yeah. Jacob
Murphy on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And then the main man, the one we all can't wait to see and hopefully bag some goals, Alexander Isak through the middle.
Yes. Right, there's your teams. They are set. I mean, I have to be honest, Chris. I'm with you in terms of the team that was starting. I can't see it being any different, but it's interesting why you've changed Livramento. You've put him in there.
Just got a feeling, mate. It's Kyle Walker-Peters. It is. It's the pace, and I think because let's be honest. Let's say he started with Kieran Trippier and he's getting turned inside out. A lot of people will be going, hang on, he's not played much preseason football. Why has he started with Kieran Trippier, knowing he's up against a pacey, not just Kyle Walker-Peters, but looking at it as well, Joe Aribo. He's going to be getting down that left hand side, or Kieran Trippier's right hand side. It just makes sense to have Tino in there for me. It does.
Definitely, it does make sense, and we have to kind of match it up. But let's not forget, we're all of the mindset that Tino Livramento would be going into this season as number one anyway. So it just kind of makes sense. And I was with you. I think Tino Livramento will start against his old club. Number one right back choice, in my opinion now, and a lot of our opinions, it makes sense to play him up against on that right hand side. It's going to be interesting to see how it works. But just come back to you, Mike, really, really quickly. What style of football are you playing? Do you tend to play through the middle, or do you tend to play down the right or the left? Do you target one particular side where you're strongest, or is it just sort of a bit of a mixed bag? Like, how is it that you sort of play your football from what you were watching last season?
It is a mixed bag. I mean, a lot of the time we are baiting the press. And looking at some of these players, I'm thinking baiting the press against Millwall's one thing, but baiting the press against Newcastle United's another one. I mean, you guys run crazy off the ball, so you're not going to give us any particular space. But That said, that might play into our hands in the fact that you are actually going to get baited maybe on one or two occasions. We tend to pass pretty direct through the middle on occasion. I mean, some of our greatest goals come from sort of cutting inside and sort of passing from down to small bone straight through to Armstrong. Just kind of quick one touch sort of stuff. But it is pretty versatile. But effectively, we'll try and hold on to possession as much as possible. And, bait you guys in and then hopefully open up a bit of space. And whether that be down the middle, whether that be down the left or right, it doesn't really matter. But that's effectively what they'll do. So,
another question here, like just in terms of these three in the back line with McCarthy as well. Do you tend to play out from the back?
We do. Alex McCarthy can't do it though. He's a great Premier League proven goalkeeper. And some of the saves that he made in the playoff campaign are the reason that we're in the Premier League anyway. So massive credit to him for what he's done there. But he has given the ball away to the opposition in regards to like an overhit pass playing out from the back. So it's a bit of a liability on those kind of situations. So whether or not we'll see him go a bit longer on Saturday's game, but like I said, Russell Martin's not one to change his tactics too much. So I'm sure you won't want to see Alex McCarthy just hooping up the pitch and hoping that Smallbone and Aribo pick the ball up. So I think we will see it playing out from the back still.
Yeah, it's interesting. The reason why I asked that, and Chris will know, is because we are very much a team that will press high. So what you'll find is, particularly when you've got the ball, so just say McCarthy's got the ball in this situation, and let me just fight. Let me get a ball. There we go. So McCarthy's got the ball here. What you'll tend to do is you'll find that Murphy will press up here, Isak will be here, and Gordon will be here, and we'll literally press everybody up the pitch. Will be pressed all in these tight positions, and we'll be targeting this sort of area. If it lets me do it, no, it's not letting me do it. I would have done a circle there, but it would have been around this sort of area here, and it'll be almost kind of forcing you to go long, because if you pass short, we've got three of the quickest players on the pitch in Gordon, Isak, and Murphy to kind of like come at you and stop you playing, and I think that could be a way in for Newcastle United in the game in particular. Do you tend to play a lot of football with Flynn Downs in possession? Do you try and get him on the ball?
Yes, yeah. So he effectively will be the kind of the main focal point. Harwood Bellis also, is kind of a starting point for a lot of the play. But the kind of sort of link up play between Bellis, Downs, and Smallbone, or Bellis, Downs, and Rebo, that tends to be sort of the makeup of it. But yeah, just trying to link up as best as possibly can with the space available. Russell Martin kind of said that he doesn't believe in positions, so to speak. So a lot of versatility and a lot of switching will be going on based on the space available, and also whatever the press from the opponents has opened up in regards to the space available on the pitch.
It's going to be interesting. Chris, where do you think, just before we move on, where do you think Newcastle will win the game effectively? Where do you think it's going to come from?
I'll be honest, mate, I can't take my eyes off the centre midfield. We've been looking forward to having Big Joe back. I think Joe Linton is going to be, an absolute colossus for us. We've seen him in pre-season. He looks like he's fully fit and back to his best. And I think Joe Linton is I think he'll be difficult, Mike, if I'm honest, because if he's at it, I think he'll be all over the pitch. There's potential for him to be man of the match, because I think he'll just try and dominate and really try and drive us up the pitch. So for me, I'd say central midfield. Obviously Anthony Gordon. I think the wingers are going to be interesting, because if, as Mike says, they play with the fullbacks higher up the pitch, it's going to cause Walker Peters and Suguara a bit of an issue, because obviously they're going to have Anthony Gordon behind them and Jacob Murphy behind them, and as you rightly said, Pete, we're going to push, we're going to press, and so they won't want to leave one-on-one Harwood, Bellis and Stevens. They will not want to leave that one-on-one, because I think most defenders would acknowledge that they won't want Anthony Gordon running at them, and they won't want Jacob Murphy running at them on their own. And then obviously Jan Bednarek's going to have to deal with one of the best strikers in European football. So, for me, I think it's going to be an uphill task for Southampton, and I think the centre of midfield is where we can potentially win it, but those wing backs are going to be key as well for me.
Any last thoughts, Mike, with regards to the team, the setup for Southampton or Newcastle?
You mentioned on the show we did that there was perhaps an injury issue for Shah. Is that still the case? Is still a doubt, or?
Well, we weren't sure up until today, because there has been confirmation that he has been in training. So he has been training. So I think Fabian Shah, basically from the pictures and the video that's come out today, the video's actually come out whilst we've been going live, it almost confirms that he's going to be available for the game. So Chris putting him in the starting 11, Chris putting him in the starting 11 is justified, and it is right, because the thing is, Mike, and you probably won't have noticed this, but with us in particular, with Shaw, we don't know whether he's injured or whether he's not, because he literally picks up an injury every single game. Mostly it's always a head injury, but it's because he puts his body on the line. He puts his body on the line.
Old school centre back, love it.
Proper centre back. You wouldn't know it by the way he looks, because he looks like a chiseled god, and super, like a model esque. But he puts his body and his head on the line all the time, and he does come off the pitch battered and bruised. You never quite know. And he did limp off at the game on Saturday against Stag Brest. But yeah, he's been training, so it looks like he's going to be fit and ready for the game on Saturday. So yeah, unfortunate for you, but positive for us, because he's crucial in our backline. We really do need him. That is for sure. Right, a few more questions before we get to those all-important predictions. I do want to mention Keith, unfortunately, can't make it due to work commitments tonight. Our Statman, 00 Stato. However, he has left me a prediction. So when we get to predictions, I'm going to share you a prediction that he has given. And I'm sure everyone that's normally watched away days and our match preview will be very interested to see what that prediction is. So let's get some questions first, because there's more in the chat. Thank you for all your questions so far. Yeah. What other ones have we got from Mike?
So I know we touched on this very slightly earlier on, but we didn't. Well, Tom's asking outright, and I don't think we asked Mike this opinion outright. But what sort of atmosphere do you think Tino Livramento is going to get from the Southampton fans?
I think pretty good, actually. I don't think there's any bad feeling whatsoever. I mean, there was perhaps a little bit, but it was understandable because of the money that was eventually paid for Tino. I think was pretty justified. So. He effectively spent the season we got relegated. He was effectively injured for the entirety of it, so he was basically just on a medical bench, and then sort of moved on after a couple of games in pre-season. But I don't think there should be any issues with that. I mean, a lot of the Saints fan base were looking at a thing like, okay, he's got potential move to Newcastle United here, where he's going to be playing Champions League football. It's like, it'd be mad to think like he's going to stay in the Championship and go to Rotherham United and Plymouth Argyle and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous to think. So no, I think he'll get a warm reception. I don't think you'll hear any booing from the 3,000 up in the gods. So I think he's all good. Yeah, nice to see him doing well as well. I think I mentioned UP. It was great to see him playing in Champions League and have decent performances and hit all the pundits waxing lyrical about him. He's a fantastic player, and we certainly wish him all the best for the future.
That's nice. That's nice, mate. Yeah. Again, something else that we touched on earlier, but I can't remember, Mike, if you actually, if we asked you outright, but Foxy asks you, what's the situation with Alcaraz after returning from his Juve spell? It's basically, do you think that Alcaraz will still be a Southampton player come the end of the window, or do you think that he'll go?
I actually had the pleasure of asking this to Charlie directly, and says, are you going to be staying at the club? And he literally, his English ain't that great, but he literally just pointed to Russell Mount and said, ask him. And that was basically his response, which I thought was pretty beautiful, really. Charlie's pretty happy at the club. He enjoys his football. I don't think he's the exact fit for Russell Martin. I think there's better suitors out there. There's numbers being touted around about 21 million quid, 25 million quid, which would be good business for both the club and the player, because he'll ultimately get first team football if he's going for that kind of money. But whether or not, I mean, I think in regards to his Juve spell, he didn't really play that much football. He came on a lot as a substitute. I asked him how he liked the Italian league, and he says he didn't like it. It was too slow, which I was quite surprised by. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll probably moved on in the eyes of the club for a perfect situation. So yeah, that would be the desired position.
Interesting, mate. Interesting. So I've got one question for the three of us. I've got another question for Pete, and then I've got a rhetorical question for Mike at the end. So Mike, you don't have to answer the last question, but yeah, just something to leave you with. Bit cruel, but I'm going to say it, Mike.
Just quickly on also the two solid pickups, the frees that we got, Wellington one. We don't know that much about that, to be honest with you. So it's a case of I understand there's like permits and work permits in the UK that need to go through, so we won't see them until January as this thing. But it's a big unknown. But when they got announced, I kind of felt like it was remember when was it Carlos Tevez and Mascherano when they first came? Yeah, and they came in. They had lingerings of that these two geniuses from South America that come over, but we don't know. It could be an amazing bit of business. It could be. You're
going to say, well, I'm going to say, Pete.
Yeah, so. Chris, you say it, because we're going to say the same thing.
If Foxy likes them, mate, they'll be good.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
he knows his South America.
Foxy knows he does. He does.
Well, that's good to hear. Like that.
Yeah. So when you come back for the next away days, if they're awful, you can blame Foxy.
And Foxy probably won't come in the chat.
Right, so this is for the three of us, and it's an interesting one, and it's from Brett C. I've got to admit that I don't know much about this, so I'm interested to see if Mike and Pete have got a slant on it. But what's your opinion on the Twitter VAR account to explain decisions, assuming anyone could get signal in the stadium? I haven't even seen this.
I haven't seen it.
Having a season without VAR has been utterly wonderful. I for one was kind of in favour of VAR. Seeing frustrating decisions go against you. Charlie Austin doing that thing on Sky Sports saying it's ridiculous. Give them some help. He's the reason why there's VAR in the first place. But I'm not sure you can take credit fully for that. But you get the point. I think having a season without VAR should just been amazing. When you see a goal go in and you can fully celebrate in the stadium, it's the most beautiful thing. Those few seasons where we had VAR in the Premier League, and you saw a team score a goal. We scored one against you, I think, in the League Cup that got ruled out for offside or whatever it might be. But there's that lingering feeling that it might be ruled off for something. We don't know. Just kind of staring at the boards going, am I going to see a screen of purple? What's happening? All that kind of stuff. But to have a season without it, it's just been amazing. And me personally, we should get rid of VAR until it's automated completely. It has no human intervention whatsoever. It's like owning a calculator and then having to do a manual process to make a calculator. It's ridiculous. Get rid of it until it's completely automated and there's lasers in the ball that answers all the questions for you. But on this thing about the Twitter VAR account to explain this, what's the point? Seriously? Like, you're in the stadium, you're not going to know. If you're watching at home, maybe you might just refer to it. But if you're in the stadium, you're far too busy celebrating or just looking confused. So I don't think it's going to suit anyone in the ground. But no, I'm not looking forward to VAR, if I'm honest. Just
like you said, it's already frustrating as it is. Like the amount of times that you're in the stadium and you kind of celebrate. I'm finding it the last couple of years. Like I'm celebrating, but I'm only half celebrating. I'm almost like but I'm looking around celebrating.
Yeah, exactly.
just to
horrible.
check the linesman or the referee or to check that it's actually happening. It's like you can't really kind of immerse yourself in the moment. Like I think that the game against West Ham, Chris, that me, you, and Daz were at, where Harvey Barnes scores that goal, I think that was the time where I was able to properly, we were all able to properly celebrate because we knew there was nothing ruling that out.
Mate, that is so weird you saying that, because when you were talking like that, I was thinking the only goal I can remember celebrating going mad, and I was confident it was fine, was that Harvey Barnes goal, purely because of where it was on the pitch. But you know, when a player gets put through,
you just don't know.
You're just like, is it all right? Is it okay? It looks okay. Is it okay? It's only when it's, you know, definitive that you know it's going to be a goal, because there's no dodgy challenges and you're well on side. And
the only football fan that benefits from VAR is the neutral guy at home watching on the telly. No one else benefits from it. It's the guy, because it adds a little bit more jeopardy. Like, oh, this got a goal. Oh no, they haven't. Oh, that's interesting. You know, it's kind of all that kind of ridiculous stuff that suits the neutral guy sat home with a Sky Sports remote. So I despise it even more, having had a season without it. And you know, we scored some naughty goals last season, and we had some naughty goals scored against us. It all levels out. It pretty much all levels out in some games within the same 90 minutes. So, hey, we could spend another 3 hours talking about VAR and my despise for it. But you've got much better things to talk about than that.
Absolutely, mate. Pete, so I was looking for the question for Pete, and I'm thinking, where is it? And I remembered it's because I've got my own question for Pete. So, Pete, Mike was talking earlier about Kyle Walker-Peters. And if you remember last season, we asked Mike, not last season, the season before last, and we said to Mike, we were like, Mike, how much for Kyle Walker-Peters? And I remember Mike quoting us 40, 50 million, something around that mark.
The vultures are circling already.
Hey, this is it. Now, I know that we're not, definitely searching for a right back or a left back, but are you knowing what we know, 10 million, whether it be now or maybe the end of the season? Do you think Eddie Howe and his coaching staff would be potentially looking at Kyle Walker-Peters, or do you think that ship sailed?
Is that how much he is? 10 million?
Mike said
he's only got a year left on his contract. So, I mean, we all want to see sort of 20 plus million, but realistically, if you've got a year left on your contract, there's only so much you can do.
Because I thought that was the reason why he didn't go to West Ham, because Southampton wanted 20 and they were only willing to sort of pay 15. But look, if he's available for 10, 15 million, got a year left on his contract, who's to say that's not the natural switch out? That if Trippier, who's rumoured to be leaving before the end of the window, does leave, and you get someone like Kyle Walker-Peters who can play either side, left or right, as you mentioned previously, and he can come in and be the kind of the competitive or competitor to Tino Livramento, I'd be all for it. You know that I've rated Kyle Walker-Peters anyway. We've talked about it on previous away days when Mike's been on. I think he's a terrific player, and I think, what is he, 26, 27 now? He's still a good age. And so therefore, it would be a solid investment. He's certainly better than Emil Kraft, who would be the backup right back if Trippier was to leave. So for me, I'd take him for sure. I think
a big thing that might go against that, the only thing that I know is the fact that he bought a house in London. And he bought a house in London, I think, maybe 6 months ago or so. So I think he was pushing for a move to London, whether that be Spurs, West Ham, being the sort of the closest suitors. So I don't know whether that has any merit in that. So, but you never know.
No, it has done before. We've lost out to many a player because they wanted to prefer to stay in London. Two off the top of my head, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Tammy Abrahams both wanted to stay in London. And what do you know? They're both in Italy now. Typical. Just typical.
They just prefer the south. They just went further south. The very northeast people.
Yeah.
Pete, just before I move on to Mike's rhetorical question, quick one from Adam McCarthy. He says, "Are you donning the OG Loaded Mag tee?"
This is the new part of the new merch. So if you haven't checked out the store, the Loaded Mag NUFC Loaded Mag, this is just one small addition to what is already on there. There's all sorts. hats, t-shirts, jackets, jumpers, pillows, coasters, the lot. Go check it out. It is there. The online store is up and running. So check out all Loaded Mag NUFC gear. And as we've said, everyone that purchases from the store gets put into a prize draw for a competition to win additional prizes. So it's still open as it stands. Make sure you get involved on the Loaded merch. And there is Loaded merch direct gear, but there's also Loaded Adidas merch too. So there's different opportunities there. Get involved as and when you can.
100%. And Mike, I'm really sorry, mate. I've got to put this on screen. I'd feel terrible saying it, but in fact, it's not me saying it, so maybe I shouldn't feel so bad. But Dennis, just before we get to predictions, he says, Mike, how's it feel knowing you lose by 5 on the first day? Not trying to influence your prediction, Mike. Just saying.
It's we're braced. That's all I say. We're braced for potential not only this one but perhaps a few others, but like I said, opening game of the season, silly season around sort of August, you never know with these kind of fixtures, and they do throw up some surprises, but ultimately if we can score, I'll be happy.
Good man.
And that brings us to the predictions. So look, we'll start with the predictions. I'll go first because we'll go ourselves round, and then I'll give Keith's prediction afterwards. So I think Newcastle United will win. I think we'll win 3. I went for, I think on your channel, Mike, I went for 3-1. So I'll stick with that. I think Newcastle will win 3-1 on Saturday. We need a positive start for the season, and I think at St James's Park we'll get that. Chris, predictions?
I'm going to have to agree with Michael Pomar here. I'm going to say 4-0. I am. I think, I'll be honest, Mike, I think you're absolutely right in that, a surprise could happen. But I just think first game of the season, St James's Park, a lot of expectation, a lot of anticipation. I think we could be 2-0 up within the first 15-20 minutes. I genuinely do, and then it will peter out. And I think it'll be 2-0 at half time, and I think it'll finish 4-0. That's just a feeling I've got. I agree with Michael Pomar. I mean, everyone's getting a bit out of hand now.
Yeah, come on, Ian.
Yeah,
guys, I'm right here.
People are going nuts now.
Stop that in the chat. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
Mike's just said he's still here. He's not even gone yet.
Wait for the shows after when I'm not here. Goodness me, look at that.
It is wild, you're in. It is wild. But Mike, opposition fan view. I love it. Opposition fans view. What do you think the score will be on Saturday, mate?
It's one of those things where we're very on brand on Matchday Vlogs in terms of backing our team, whatever. So if I may, can I give you 2?
Go for it.
Okay, so my heart thinks it's going to be 2-1 to Saints.
He's gone for it.
I've gone for it. I don't know. I just think maybe we might be able to put on a shock here. But if my head, I think it might be close to the 3-0 to Newcastle.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, head and heart prediction. I see it. I see that. Definitely. Okay, so what we would normally do, we would get Keith's prediction, and go on,
just
Chris.
Before you do, Pete. I've not even seen that.
I've not seen it either. Daz has done a change up to the Keith intro. I love it. That'll be good for him to see next week for sure. But Keith, as always, he always stays very, very close to the win with regards to these predictions. However, in his words, I tip Newcastle United for a narrow home 2-1 win.
Ooh.
Gone for the win. He's off the fence.
Bloody hell, Keith.
He's off the fence. He's gone for a narrow 2-1 win.
Wow.
So Keith's gone for it. He's gone for the win.
Even Keith thinks you're going to win. That's how sure it is.
I know it, mate. That doesn't happen very often. It really doesn't, mate.
Keith thinks you're going to win. Surely it's a win. But no.
Put your house on it. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Joseph White's with you, Mike. I know he's Southampton fan, isn't he? Because he's
yes. How we doing? Good to see you there.
Big Joe's going 5-4. It'll be an exciting game, that, Joseph.
Yeah, my word.
Match of the season, wouldn't it? First game of the season, match of the season.
First time match of the day, first time. Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
That would be something. Nice to hear the away section piping up, though. Good to have you in.
They'll still find a way of putting like Man U Fulham on 0-0 on first match of the day or something like that. They'll still try and find a way of putting another team first. But hey, right, that's it. Away days. The first big match prediction is in the bank. We'll come back to that in just a second, and the reason being is because we have to say thank you to one of our fantastic sponsors, the Radiator Shed, and always like to just bop around to this music. So check this one out. Massive thanks to Russ and the team at the Radiator Shed. If you want to get in touch with them to prepare for the winter, contact Russ by email at russ@radiatorshed.com, or you can contact them by phone 07766 604 112. And as well, if you're purchasing a radiator or two, you can use the Loaded 20 for a discount. So make sure you give your Loaded 20 in when you are purchasing your radiators. And whilst you're there, if you're new to the channel, make sure you're following us on all socials. Make sure you're following us on X. We put all our shows out and what we're up to as a channel, alongside Instagram and of course TikTok, more for videos and updates, mostly on transfers, but we are on TikTok as well. So give us a follow on all. And as well, if you're watching or listening, should I say, on audio, Spotify and Apple Music, make sure you get involved on that too. And if you're interested in any business inquiries, loadedmagnufcinfo@gmail.com. We welcome all business inquiries as and when. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Mike, huge thanks for you coming on. Superb guest as always. Before you go, tell everybody where they can find you. We know where you are. We follow you. We watch your videos. Where can everyone else find you, mate?
You can find us. It's at Matchday Vlogs pretty much everywhere. So you can find us on YouTube, on TikTok as well. Instagram, Facebook, all the things. At matchdayvlogs.com, we've got our merch going on as well. Just got a new one that I just got brought in. We're wearing the pink kit on the. Well, I think we might be wearing the pink kit on Saturday, so you might see us. And we got our own pink kit, which I need to turn inside out because I haven't put it up here. Just simply Up the Saints written on it. There we go.
Love it.
Nice simple one. Yeah. Nice shell colour pink. So, but yeah, matchdayvlogs.com for all that kind of stuff. And we did have a good sales on the Tino follow shirt, so it made it equally sad when we had to change it to Joe Aribo rather than Livramento. But there we go. It didn't sell quite as well though, so never mind.
But to be fair, we do the Hokey Cokey to Tino Livramento. So we've kind of changed the song.
Okay.
We can add the follow in there as an additional Tino song.
Lovely. Yeah.
But Mike, it's been a pleasure. Look, after this weekend, of course, best of luck for the season. It's a pleasure to have you back and have Southampton in the Premier League. Let's just hope you take Ryan Fraser from us before the end.
We'll have Ryan Fraser, and maybe we'll take 3 points as well. But we'll see.
Oh,
we'll see. Is that a deal we can do? Can we do that deal? Is that how it works?
No deal. No. Sorry. But Chris, you mentioned about signing up with Isaac. Now, the reason why I say this is because Yano's not a big fan, and the reason being is that there's a mistake on one of the spellings that he's asking Daz to correct. But should we go with Isaac anyway?
It's the tune. It's just the tune. Mike, you'll love the tune. Wait till you hear it. Brilliant.
We're going to sign up with Isaac.
Am I getting 2 goals, Pete? 2 goals from Isaac this weekend. 2 goals.
Well, we have to sign off with Isaac purely for that reason. So, with that being said, have a great evening. See you all for the match reaction on Saturday. And of course, we do love playing away. How do you like that, people?